Hello, this is Sally Battis from Sally Bead Jewelry, and I'm going to do a demo today on doing a 7 warp braid. It's really quite simple. It is different, of course, than the 8 warp. And to make it easier, I find that it's nice to make a template to go over your existing disc. And that way you can number it for the sequence that you're looking for. And you can do it just on a regular piece of paper, which is what I did here, and I just stapled it to the disc. But what I'm going to do today to make it a little more permanent is I'm going to take a piece of this fun foam that you can get at any craft store, and I cut it to the size of the disc by tracing it and then just cutting it out. And then what I need to do is go in about a ½ inch and trim off some more so that you can actually get to the slots. So I will start doing that so you can see what I mean. And I mean, this is just temporary. I'm not temporary, but it doesn't have to be fancy. Just, you know, estimate about a ½ inch in. And if you're not good at that, you could find a smaller circle to trace, or you know, just draw the line first. But I find it's just as easy to just go around and cut it. And I noticed over here I was slightly bigger, so I'll just trim it down. Okay, and then you're going to place it on your disc, and you're going to then take a ruler and you're going to go from one side of the dot to the other, and then you're going to draw a line, and then you'll just turn your disc and do the same thing from the top side of one dot to the bottom side of the other, basically just making a big X. And then you're going to turn it and go straight across, and then turn it again and go straight across. So you're going to end up with 8 lines. Even though this is a 7-cord braid, you're going to need 8 lines. Okay, and then using a Sharpie, or you could use the same pen, but I just wanted to do it in a different color, you're going to label each of these with a letter. So I'm going to start with A, and then I'm going to skip over 2 and make a B, and then I'm going to skip over 2 and make a C, and then skip over 2, make your D, skip over 2, make your E, skip over 2, make your F, skip over 2, make your G, and lastly make your H. Okay, so I'll zoom in on that a little bit so you could see what I mean. Okay, so you got your A through H on there. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back out again. And then what you're going to do is, if you want it to be secure on your disc, take your stapler and open it up like you used to do when you were in school, and you would use it on the bulletin board and just smash it. And then you can just place it on your disc and give just a couple of places, go in and just push down on it. It'll make a couple of pinhole marks on your disc, but it's really not going to interfere with the disc at all. So that's it as far as getting your disc ready. You can also, like my discs have this bezel bottom, and so I mean, if you have a plain disc that doesn't have that, you could also just write the you know, actually mark up the bottom of your disc, and that will suffice also. Okay, so then what you're going to need for this, I mean, you can do it all in the same bead if you want, but I find what really looks nice is to have a wide variety of different style beads. So here's an example where I did a turquoise one, and I have the pellet beads, I have some lentils, I have some of the Mayuki drops, I have some square beads, and some seed beads, and it gives it a lot of texture. I also did this purple one here. The only difference between the beads on this one and the turquoise is I didn't have two different color lentils, so I used a rondelle crystal instead. Okay, and for this one that I'm doing here, it's going to be shades of gold, and I have some square. Now I'll just move this around. So I have some square beads, some rondelle crystals, some Mayuki long, some size 6 seed beads, and then I have some size 8 in 2 different colors, and then I have some lentils. Okay, so that's 7 different beads, and so you'll cut 7 cords. I do it 20 inches long, 20 to 23 inches should be fine. I always coat the end and tie them in a overhand knot. And let me zoom back out here again. Whoops, wrong way. Okay, so there's my disc. So I tie them in a knot, and then I like to place them on the disc before I start loading. Okay, so you're going to fan them out, leaving slot H open. I hope you can hear my little Zen music going in the background. My last video, nature helped out and was blowing the wind chimes that I have out on the porch, and people commented that they liked the sound going in the background. So I set up my iPod with my music generator and got some little Zen music going. So anyway, you're going to set up your disc like that, leaving the H slot open. And then what I like to do is arrange the, and I don't actually even have them, I like to arrange them so that the largest beads are, A through D, and then the smaller beads are E through G, and that gives it a nice texture. So just for the sake of time, I'm going to pause while I load the beads up, because you're not going to want to sit here and watch me do that. What I do for an average size bracelet, I loaded, I think it was 34 beads on each cord. Okay, so I am going to pause and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. I haven't finished doing all of the strands, but what I showed you a little tip that I do for threading some of the more difficult beads. I coat the last inch or so with clear fingernail polish so that it's a little stiffer. And then I take my scissors, and I'm going to come up close here and just trim the tip of it off on a slight angle so that it makes more of a point. Okay, and that will make loading your lentils or your check drops or the rizzos or anything where the hole is a little smaller, and it just kind of makes loading them up just a little bit better. And you could just use it as, because it's stiffer, it'll be as if you're holding a needle in your hand instead of a flimsy little piece of cord. So that's one of my tips for loading, and especially with a lot of the check drops, you don't want to use a needle because the hole is smaller, and if you double the cord up through a needle, then you have the possibility of breaking the bead, you know, by pulling that double thickness of the cord through the hole of the check bead. So this is a much safer way to, you know, to load them up. As you can see, it's going pretty quickly. And I usually just kind of tip them up so that I can get them in. And that's how I do that. And of course, because I'm talking here, I haven't counted. So anyway, I'm going to pause again and finish loading the rest of the beads up. Okay. Okay, I am back. I am all loaded up. You can see the cords are loaded. So what I did is I loaded the squares on the A. On B, I did the size 6s. On C, I did the lentils. On D, I did the rondelle crystals. On E, I did the Miyuki long drops. And on F, I used the pearlized or luster beads, C bead size 8. And then on G, I have some clear translucent AB size 8 seed beads on G. And then, like I said, F is left blank. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take the cord A, good place to start, right? And you're going to move it to the empty slot. So what I recommend, if you're comfortable anyway this way, is to leave the open slot at the bottom, and that way you can do a downward motion. If you're used to doing an upward motion, then turn it around and have the blank at the top, and then you can do your upward motion. But you're always going to be going 2 cords up and taking the third and moving it to the blank spot. And that's why when I had you label it A through H, I had you label 1 and then skip 2 and label the next, skip 2, label the next, and that way it'll help you. Okay, so this way you know, if you put the disc down, you know exactly where you are. Okay, so you're gonna just lift off the A, move it to H, then rotate your A to the bottom, so because that's the empty one. Then you're going to take your B, move it down, you're going to rotate again, you're going to take your C, you're going to move it to the empty spot, you're going to rotate again, move your D to the empty spot, E, empty spot, F, empty spot, G to the empty spot, H to the empty spot. And you're just going to keep repeating that. So you're going to start again at A to the empty, B to the empty, C to the empty. I'm all tangled here. Normally I wouldn't be working, you know, over a table, so my cords are getting a little tangled underneath. But anyway, if you should lose your place, you know, the phone rings, you need to make the bathroom break, whatever it is, when you come back, look at what the empty slot is, and that says D. So you're going to go to the next, put it at the bottom, and then you're going to go with D, E. So E is your next move. So you're going to just keep going. E, F, G, H, and back to A, 1, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now I'm just kind of placing my finger over it. Before I was holding it from the bottom, so you could do whatever's comfortable. You can also hang a weight from the bottom, which I might just go and do because it's probably going to be easier for me to hold the disc the other way while I'm doing the demo. Oops, sorry. Sorry for the disruption here. And anyway, you're going to want to keep doing your braid until you have enough of a tail, you know, to put your clasp on. Now the tail itself, when you're doing the braid, it is fairly loose, so it is going to stretch if you pull on it. So keep that in mind, you know, when you're braiding. So hopefully you can see the tail there. So I just have a little bit more to go, and then I will start dropping beads down. Okay. Alright, so I'm back at A, but A is not necessarily the beads that I started with, because you're constantly moving it from, you know, slot to slot with a different letter. It really doesn't matter which bead you decide to start with. I like to a lot of times start with the seed beads to be closest to the knot, and that way when you're putting your clasp on, it just tends to work better. So I'm just going to keep going with no beads until, okay, so now I'm at my first cord that has beads on it that are seed beads. So I'm just going to start dropping them, and you're going to do it the same as you do your 8 warp, where you're going to tuck it under the cord. So you're going to do it the same way. So you put your B, and then you're going to rotate, you're going to pick up your C, make sure it's tucked under. First couple are always the toughest, and then your D, and this is my square, and the next should be my size 8, and the next is my lentil, and my rondelle crystal, and then my long drop, and I should be back to the seeds. So again, it's going to be the seed. Oh, see, I was ready to pick up the G. I just did A. The next move should be B. So if you find yourself, you know, basically, I don't know if you could see it, hopefully or not, but if I was to lift this one up, you'd see that it's not really, you know, this bead is gonna pop if I tried to move G. So you're gonna wanna follow the alphabet. So you got your B, and then again with C, and D, and then through the magic of television here, I'm going to pause and finish this braid up so you don't have to sit here and watch me braid in, you know, 34 beads times 7, and you can do the math. It'll take me a little while, although it is a fairly quick braid to do, and there's a lot of turning, of course, but you'll find that it ends up being just as fun to do as the 8 warp, and I just find that doing the letters on the you know, on the braid makes it a lot easier to remember what you need to do. Now, if for some reason you made a mistake, or you've braided too many, and when you measure it you say, oops, I need to back out. Backing out, you're going to go
you know, in the reverse direction. Basically, let me do it the other way again. So when you're turning, the one that I just moved was C, and now I'm going to go to D. But when I'm dropping the bead down, so I'm going from D to C, going backwards in the alphabet. Okay, so the normal move would be from E and going backwards in the alphabet to D. So now to back out, you're going to go up the alphabet. So you're going to take the chord, you know, if your empty slot is E, you're going to want to go and take your D, reach in, grab your bead, go to E. So now E, the next chord, see, oh, so then you're going to look at your empty, it's D, and see, this is the part that's tough, is trying to figure out what braid did. So you're going to want to go from C. So from C to D. So you have to kind of keep saying that to yourself. So now from C, I want to go from B to C. And you're going to lift and take out. So that's the part I find a little hard to remember, is, you know, how to figure out how to back it out. But just think, you know, that you have to look at the empty and see what letter corresponds to it, okay? And so now I'm just going to go back in order again. So C to the empty. And, you know, so going forward, it's easy because you go up the alphabet and you're always moving it to the empty slot. You don't really care what letter it is. You know, you're just going to the one that's empty. So, you know, again, you're just going to keep going around and around, and it makes it very nice having the letters on it. You could put numbers if you prefer, you know, 1 through 8, and so again, I'm going to, like I said before, I'm just going to put it on pause, and I'm going to finish the braid so you can see it. I mean, I just have a little bit going here, and it's kind of cute. So let me finish up and I'll be right back. I'm back. I haven't finished it all, but I wasn't sure how long I can actually pause the camera before it you know, would shut off on me, so I wanted to come back partway through to show you how the braid is coming along. I think it looks pretty good. It's got a nice mixture of beads, and they do kind of scatter around with this 7 cord braid. It's very, very, very cute. So anyway, I'm going to pause again and finish up. Alright, so I am back again, and I have finished braiding in my beads. This time it took 32, I think, because some of the beads that I used this time around were just a little longer. And I did several rounds without beads, giving me a little bit of a tail to put my clasp on. Now to finish it, I finished where H is my empty slot again. So I usually like to take the bottom 2 cords and pull them up over the top and tie the knot. So the bottom 2 cords would be your A and your B. So I'm going to lift up the A and the B. I'm going to place the disc down, and I'm just going to make a square knot, tie it down. And then once you do that, you can pull your cords off the disc. And I'll show you what I was talking about before, about that the braid itself is, I'm not even in the camera here, okay. So the braid itself, on the end, it gets it's a little nubby, and therefore if you give it a pull, it does stretch and becomes longer, and it almost looks like you're
your basic 8 warp braid with no beads. But anyway, it's a very pretty braid. I've only done it using the 7 different beads, but I'm sure if you play around, you could probably use lots of different combinations, or you could try it with all the same bead. But I think it gives a lot of nice texture having it done with the 7 different beads. It's pretty on. It's also a very flexible braid, because I think the 7, that one less cord in there just makes it more malleable. You can see it just kind of, has a nice feel to it. And it's nice on. It's not super chunky, but it's enough. I think it would also be cute if you did use some magatamas in it, or maybe some of the new pip beads. You can come up with all kinds of combinations. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll give this 7 cords a try. Alright, well, thank you very much. And again, this is Sally Battis from Sally Bead Jewelry, and I'm signing off.